Hey everybody, thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to work on this Shohin Premna in training. And then I'm going to put it into its very first bonsai pot. So this tree has very interesting trunk movement, but it's hard to see because we have a lot of excess growth that's going to come off on probably, what is the sacrifice branch? This branch in the back here. But it really has cool movement, and all of this movement has been accomplished with clip and grow. This tree has never had wire, and it's in a little odd training pot. It's actually a plastic food container. This used to contain dates, and I just cut holes with a knife, and it's in a landscape mix that has been degraded tremendously. So let's just actually pop it out of the tray. So it's healthy enough, but it certainly needs to be rehabbed, and I do not have the perfect pot for this guy, so I'm going to just work with what I've got. So there's a couple things I want to do with this guy first. And one of those is that we see right here, there's this very heavy branch which is coming out as the second main branch, or this is the first main branch. And there's also a lot of weird little incidental stuff right here, and another knob that is just above the first main branch. So I'm going to take a lot of that stuff off. Do not cut that main branch. There. And then I'm also going to take this off. If we notice, we've got this little growth here, and then we've got this growth coming from the very thick branch. So I'm going to remove the entire thick branch and promote this little guy as the second main branch. And then I'm going to take, this is another one that has movement this way, and it also has movement forward and back. So I'm going to take this guy here and wire him into place to mimic the curve of the tree. So I'm also going to take off this back part. I'm going to leave that little piece, but I'm going to take off this part here. And then some of the smaller incidental stuff, I'm really not quite sure what I'm going to do with it right now. So I'm just going to leave it. And as you can see, it has very interesting roots. Most of them are exposed tremendously, and I'm not sure that that's all that big of a deal. And I also have a lot of weeds. Welcome to my backyard. So that's the deal with this guy. And I'm going to shorten this branch here to there. So that would be first main branch, second main branch. Wire this guy up to mimic the curvature here. I want to take this. I did not take it down far enough. There. And I have 3 pots, but I'm not so sure about 2 of them. So here's the first one. And I don't know, maybe we should just stick it in there. It's very, very, very shallow. And it would probably work, but I think it's a little too shallow. And we have another one here, which is Florida, USA. And it's got the little charp. I don't know who made this pot. I apologize. 6110, does that mean it's the 62nd pot that he did in 2010? I'm only assuming it's a he. So there's the second one. And that might work. And then the third one is much smaller. And I was really leaning towards this one. as far as like the height of the tree. But now that I'm looking at it, I really would have to whack a tremendous amount of roots to get that guy in there. So I've changed my mind. I'm going to go with this one, which will be perhaps a little bit of over potting, but let it grow into this pot. Then, and I really don't have the perfect pot. I know what I want. I want it to be, for one thing, I don't want this edge like this. I want it to be straighter. I don't really want the concave edge either. So I want a round pot that's a little bit less diameter than this one, but with straight edge. And I just don't have one that I can say, ah, yes, that's what I want. But the first order of business is to wire the apex up. Then I'm going to totally change my workbench, get my tray, and remove the vast majority of the soil from this guy, and then put him into that brown pot. So that's coming up next. So I've decided to do the wiring part on camera. So I've got my wire, which is used wire, so it's way too long, but that only means that I just need to wrap it around the trunk more than the typical twice. And I really need to be facing the branch. It's much easier to wire when you're facing, when the branch is facing you. You can see what you're doing much better. Still got excess length, but that's okay. Okay, now I guess we can go like that. So I'm going to follow the sweep of the trunk. Something about like that. So each curve should get smaller and smaller and smaller. Then we've got first main branch, which now has nothing, but we have two little tiny pieces right there. Second main branch, really no back branch at this point, but I can accentuate something like this. You know, in a perfect world, the back branch is in between branch number 1 and 2, but it doesn't have to be, just as long as you have some visual depth. And I found another pot. I went back and said, let me look again. So here is the other pot. It's very shallow. It's handmade. And I think it's going to work. Still not quote-unquote perfect, but I think it's going to work. And so this is the one I'm going to use. So now I'm going to modify my workbench in order to remove the old soil and put it into the pot. Got my tray, my cafeteria tray, which has served me well. And I've got my root hook, and I do believe I'm going to take all of the soil off of this guy completely. Because it's just so nasty. The 100% organic landscape mix that I use is good stuff for a while, but it does degrade. And Premnas are tough. They're not hardy to cold, but they're a tough tree. So the fact that it's in this really, really crummy soil is not that big of a deal as far as the Premna is concerned. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do is off camera, I'm going to I'm going to dunk it in a bucket of water. That's 90% of all that old soil off of there. So we've got some interesting roots. Gonna cut all of these guys. I'm not entirely concerned about having all these roots that were exposed back under the soil. I think that if they're still exposed a little bit, it might add some character to the tree. So that's looking pretty good. Got one more straggler. So that's looking pretty good. Get rid of those old roots. There's our tree. And now the pot. The pot is one that has 4 feet, but obviously it has a longer distance here. That could also be the front, actually. This could be the front, but I don't like the way this moves towards us if you look at it like that. And so I've chosen this as the front, and you can see I'm going to wire this guy down into the pot. And he just barely fits. I think what I may do is, because this is a Premna and they are so tropical and they root so easily, I'm going to chop a few more of the really heavy roots. Just shorten them. Okay, now let's get him in there. I don't like to wire things into the pot. Many times I just don't think it's all that necessary, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to turn him around. Look at that scar there. But that's how you make taper and movement. So we're just going to give him a little bit of a twist. That should be enough. Here's our front, like that. And then all I have left to do is to add the new soil. And he's going to get all brand new bonsai soil. So we're just going to see how much of the old roots actually get covered. It may be more than I thought. This pot's pretty shallow, but it seems to be holding a pretty decent amount of soil. And I really don't think it needs a chopstick, because the roots were so far apart and so exposed, there were really no quote-unquote nooks and crannies. Alright, well, it actually covered up most of those surface roots. So now if we bring it like that, so there's the tree. Movement forward and backwards, movement to the side, first main branch, second main branch, something in the back here would become a back branch, sacrifice branch. And then what will happen is, as it gets watered, the soil will settle, and some of it will be washed away just from, that's just the way it is, and those roots will become even more exposed. Because I think the exposed roots were actually an interesting part of this tree, and I may actually remove some of the soil. I think this guy could quickly become one of my favorite Premna. And if you have the chance to grow Premna, they're just such fantastic bonsai. And you know, I never really talked about it, but look how tiny all the leaves are. And I'm going to pause and I'm going to bring you a mature leaf. Even after growing Premna for so long, I'm still just amazed. So you see how tiny these little leaves are? This is a mature leaf. These are from the Premna that are in my front yard that I'm growing in the ground. So the leaf reduction is just absolutely spectacular. And if you work them, you can keep these leaves this size. This tree will have these tiny little leaves. It never needs to have bigger leaves if I work it correctly, which is that when you start to get new growth, pinch, 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 pinch. You know, obviously I want to fill my pads. I may make them curved and come down and come up, and that's all in the future, but I really think this is going to be a cool little tree. And if you think it's going to be a cool little tree, please hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment. I've been growing this guy in that crud soil for a number of years, and so it's finally time to turn him into a bonsai. And if you want to watch him develop, because imagine, you know, pad, fuller canopy, it's going to be just cool little tree. So subscribe and hit the notification bell and you can watch his progress as he heads towards that end. So thank you so much for watching. I think I'm going to really enjoy this guy, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. And I will see you in the next video. So thanks for watching.